Hello Sunday School class, Miss Judith here. This week's topic is Jesus walks on water. So get your Bibles and turn to Matthew chapter 14. We're going to start in verse 22 and read through the end of the chapter. Okay. It says, "Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up to a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. 'It's a ghost,' they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, 'Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid.' 'Lord, if it is you,' Peter replied, 'tell me to come to you on the water.' 'Come,' he said. Then Peter got out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink, crying out, 'Lord, save me.' Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. 'You of little faith,' he said, 'why did you doubt?' And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.' And when they had crossed over, they landed at Gennesaret. And when the men of that place recognized Jesus, they sent word to all the surrounding country. People brought all their sick to him and begged him to let the sick just touch the edge of his cloak, and all who touched him were healed." The main point of this lesson is that Jesus has control over all of life's storms. So I have a fun little demonstration, which I'm super excited about because it's really cool. But for our demonstration purposes, I have this cup, and the lip of this is kind of rounded, okay? It's not flat. But let's just say that here's a toothpick, just a regular toothpick, nothing sticky on it or anything like that. But if we're going to try and follow after Jesus, like the disciples saw Jesus in the midst of the storm walking on the water, and Peter said, "Lord, if that's you, tell me to follow after you, and I will." And so he did, and he got out of the boat. He started out really well, started trying to follow after Jesus, and then he ended up sinking, right? Jesus said, "Oh, you of little faith." So much like it seems impossible to somehow we could, get it to stay like this, maybe, it might stay like that, but there doesn't seem to be a way for me to balance it this way. It seems rather impossible to get this little toothpick to stay this way on the edge of the cup, right? Well, if we have faith, all right, here's a fork. This fork is going to represent faith, and this spoon is going to represent prayer. So if you remember the beginning of the story, Jesus sent them out on the boat because he went up to the mountains and prayed. And faith and prayer are pretty much kind of entwined. Like, the more you pray, the more faith you have, and the more faith you have, the more you want to pray, and the more you rely on prayer and realize how helpful it is, right? So prayer and faith kind of go hand in hand. Let's see if I can get this here so you can see what I'm doing. Much like this fork and this spoon can be stuck together, all right? So then, let me get my little toothpick. Okay, and it might take a minute. Give me a minute to figure this out, get it to work properly. There we go. So then, with faith and prayer, you can follow after Jesus, if you can see that, and balance on the edge of the cup, but only with both faith and prayer. And you have to have faith that Jesus has control over the storms of life. Oh, I knocked it off. And you also need to have the faith to pray and to pray for the things that help you get through those storms, okay? All right, so here I balanced it again on the edge of the cup. But much like Peter when at first he jumped out of the boat and he had the faith that he could walk on water, and then he started looking at the storms and he lost track of what he was supposed to be doing, and he lost his faith for a minute and he started sinking. And Jesus reached down and picked him up, because Jesus will always reach down and pick us up. But much like Peter, if you don't have one of these, if you lose your faith, then there's no way that you can get it to balance. There's no way that this will ever balance on this cup, okay? Just as another fun little demonstration, I have 2 cups and a dollar bill. There's nothing weird with this dollar bill. It's just a regular dollar bill. Besides, this one's more science than like magic. But if we have burdens, here's a quarter. If we have burdens in our life and we buckle under the weight of the burden and we feel like we can't handle the pressure, then what we need to do is we need to pray and follow after Jesus and have faith in Jesus and realize that he's the one in control. So he has control of all the storms in our lives, no matter what kind of burdens or troubles or trials or storms or issues that we are facing. Jesus can handle it, right? He can reach down and pull us up and take care of us. And no matter how many waves are over our heads, the waves are always under Jesus's feet, right? So if we allow Jesus to change us, to mold us to be more like him, then it might not be comfortable getting folded up and squished around and moved around to who he wants us to be. But if we allow it and we have the faith to let him do that, then suddenly it's much easier to carry the burdens and to, that one I knocked off, to carry the burdens and to, withstand the storms and the trials of life. So for this week, I want you guys to take a minute and think about any storms that you might have going on in your life. And if you don't have any storms going on in your life right now, that's great, that's good. But just know that they will come. So if you have a storm in your life right now, I want you to think about ways that Jesus might be asking you to step out in faith. Something that he might ask you to do that's maybe a little uncomfortable, but that would help you grow to be more like him. And then pray about it and do it. If you're not going through any issues right now, just know that they will come. And when they do, that you need to look to Jesus, not look at the problems. Don't look at the waves and the storm and the mess and everything. You need to be looking to Jesus to see what it is he wants you to do, to follow after him, be more like him. All right? So just remember those lessons. Remember, you can't balance a toothpick on the edge of a cup without prayer and faith. And only when you let Jesus fold you and bend you and make him into who you're supposed to be, to the whole sanctification process to be more like Jesus, can you withstand, a pile of quarters, or, the burdens and the trials of life. All right? I love you guys, miss you, and I hope you have a fantastic week.